So, like, just to finish everything up, I think we've talked about a lot of really good stuff. Financially, what do you think people make a lot of mistakes on that are very common, or what would you advise people?
Well, I'm not going to give advice to anyone.
Sorry, guys. I thought I could get them out.
I think that like people make it more complex than it needs to be. Like if you think back at like the 10-year-old Tom who was like, I've got $20 and I understand the concept of compound interest and I'm going to put in a term deposit and just let it compound, right? Like people make it far too complex. I think, the keys are very simple. It's basically just like spend less than you make, take a portion of that, put it aside into like an emergency fund so that if something happens, then you're not out on your ass basically, and you've got no money. And then allocate a certain percentage of every single dollar that you make into some sort of asset, into investment that cash flows.
Yeah.
Right. So whether it's stocks, a portfolio of stocks, whether it's maybe you are into property, maybe you have a certain niche that you understand property, you can add value to it, whatever. Maybe property is your thing. I don't know. But what I was saying is the typical way people go about doing property is wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. There's different ways to do it where you can make a lot of money, but you just got to choose something and you got to start investing in that,
Yeah.
And a portfolio of things.
Yeah.
Right. And then you just, every single time you get paid, whether it's 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50% of what you make just needs to go into this. And it just needs to be like a tax for your future.
Yeah.
Right. And you just continue to do that over and over and over again. And that doesn't mean that you can't go out and, start businesses and stuff as well. But it just has to be something that it's like, this is something that is a non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this amount away every single time I get paid. I'm going to increase that amount when I can. And it's going to be basically just there aside for me to use for my future. Right.
Right.
And it just reduces the uncertainty
Yeah.
of what's going to kind of happen down the track.
Yeah.
Like you're not uncertain anymore about, am I going to have money? Am I not going to have money?
Yeah.
Most people don't even think about it until they're 50, like I said.
Of course.
And at that point, it's pretty much too late. Like you can do some amazing things if you're like 20 and start doing exactly what I'm saying. You get your first job, you're making what, $600-700 a week or something like that.
Yeah.
You take 10% of it, $60-70 a week. And you just put it into some sort of investment and you just keep doing that for the rest of your life. As your income scales up, you scale up your, the amount you're investing and you just continue to do this.
Yeah.
Eventually you'll kind of just like blink and you'll have like a few $100,000 in there and you're like, what the?
And then it gives you opportunities.
And
what
then you
you
have
can do.
opportunities with what you can do. You can do anything then.
Very
but
true.
the biggest problem is like people don't think about anything beyond like the 5 seconds in front of their face.
Yeah.
And don't think about like what could happen in a decade from now, what could happen in, 2 decades from now. And it's, when you start thinking in that like longer term, of the longer term outcomes, that's when you can start creating things, right? Like no one who's created anything like incredible has really thought about like, what can I do tomorrow to make something work? It's all about like, what is going to happen in a decade from now. Like you spoke about Gary Vee before.
Yeah.
He always talks about like over the next decade, this is going to be a thing. Over the next 2 decades, this is going to be a thing. He doesn't care about what's going to be a thing tomorrow, really. He just cares about what's going to be a thing over the next decade. And when you're
100%.
thinking at that level, you're out of the day to day, the week to week, the month to month.
Yeah.
That's a form of meditation in itself. You're like decluttering your mind out of what's going to happen tomorrow to how can I make this thing happen in the next decade?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're just not programmed to think like that,